Hey everybody, so I'm back with my second video, and I must say my hair looks awesome. Thank you. Anyway, this time around I'd like to talk about how to think about language. So I'm going to throw a few concepts at you. So if you're the kind of person who is looking for more practical tips, stuff you can do right now to get better at language, this video might not be for you. But if you think that a frame of mind might help you to learn language more effectively, please keep watching. So I'd like to throw 4 concepts at you that I think will help you to learn language more effectively and more efficiently. A really common problem I see with my students is that they're looking at language kind of the wrong way. They're looking at language as a bunch of data or information that they need to store in their head. And that once they've got this stuff in their memory banks, then when the time comes, they can just, output it and everything will be fine. Now, you can still learn language this way, but I don't think it is the most effective way to think about language. So the first concept I'd like to share with you, language is something we're all capable of. Like even from the time we're babies, we're picking up language. And think about your English or whatever your first language is when you were, say, like 3, 4 years old compared to it now. It's not the same, is it? You got better. You picked up more vocabulary. You learned more sophisticated ways of making sentences and such. So we just can't help it. We learn language. We pick it up. So it's something that anybody can do. The second concept I'd like to give you is that language is social. So some of you might be interested in just listening to music or watching movies or reading books in a foreign language. And I guess there's nothing wrong with that, but to me, that's kind of like playing chess by yourself. I just don't really get it. The nature of language is that it's for communication. It's meant to be shared with people. It's social. We use language every day to exchange messages and give information and express our thoughts and our feelings and get people to do stuff and things like that. So the third concept I'd like to share with you, and I think this is the most important, is that language is just a tool. So just like a fork and knife are a tool for eating food, you don't really need it to get the job done. But if you don't want to look like a complete slob and make a mess of yourself, it's more effective. It's more useful. I'm talking about a fork and spoon right now, by the way. But also, like a tool, it takes time to master. And even when you do master it, you can always get better. That's not really true for knife and fork. Maybe something like a computer would be a more effective analogy here. So it really doesn't take that much time to figure out the basics of a computer, how to turn it on, how to type a document, how to get on the internet, that sort of thing. But think about how much you know about your computer. You probably don't know everything about how it functions. You probably don't know everything about, what your motherboard looks like. Motherboard? I don't know if that's the right word. Or anyway, but you can still use it. And it still helps you do a lot of things better than if you didn't have one. So that's how I'd like you to think about language. That in order to get stuff done, like to communicate when you're traveling, to understand what you're reading in a book, you don't need to know every little technical aspect of the language. You just need to know some rudimentaries. But of course, there's always more you can do the more that you study and understand the language. And another reason I would like you to think of language as a tool rather than as a system is that language is extremely flexible. And if you look at language as a system, you're going to be thinking rigidly. Like so many of my students will approach me and ask me which is correct, A or B, or which is the right sentence, A or B. That's not how language works. There's dozens and dozens of ways to say the same thing. So if you look at it more as a tool and look at, what is the most effective way to use this tool to get across what I want to get across, you open yourself up to creative possibilities which is what you need if you're going to master a language. So what is the takeaway here? Well, on the bad side, all this means that, yeah, language is pretty complicated. But on the good side, language is complicated because it's so flexible. So what this means is that really, it's pretty hard to totally mess up in a language. The end game here is you're just trying to get your message across. And it doesn't take mastery of the language to do that. By building language skills, though, what you can do is make your message easier to understand or more appropriate for the situation. But when it comes down to it, as long as you've gotten your message across, you've succeeded in language. So I hope you can take these concepts and apply them the next time you're studying a language, whether you're reading a book, taking a class, or most importantly, talking to actual native speakers. Just remember, anybody's capable of language at any time. And language is social. It's meant to be shared with people. And finally, it's just a tool for getting stuff done. So don't focus so much on the details and, is this correct or not correct? Just, did the other person understand you? If they did, you've succeeded.